Hi, my name's Bob Brown and welcome to No Particular Topic. I'm going to talk about one of my cases which, well, it's not a homicide as the title implies because we don't always work homicides. Sometimes we'll work cases requested by the state which are high-profile cases. We work cases, let's say one of our agency people are involved in a crash, well, we'll work that. Or if the sheriff's department or the city department requests us to work a crash, and it just all depends. But 99% of the time, our cases involve traffic homicides. But this isn't one of them. This involved a chase, a really, really long chase. It covered, I think, 27 miles. Yeah. So it started with a deputy just doing speed enforcement, and he's just driving along in Immokalee, and some car's coming doing 80, and he clocks them, and he turns around to stop them, and he didn't stop. So anyway, I'll explain how I got involved and what happened throughout. And I have a lot of really good footage from the car cam and a helicopter. Anyway, so let's look at that. This incident happened on June 15th, 2009, right around 6:54 in the morning. It was unbelievably hot and humid that day, which is pretty typical during that time of year, especially June, July, August, because after all, South Florida, yeah, we live in the tropics. Anyway, the deputy, who was also a sergeant, clocked a black Nissan at 80 miles an hour in a 50-mile-an-hour zone. The sergeant was northbound and the Nissan was southbound. The radar unit displays two speeds. One is the patrol car speed, the other is the target speed, which is the Nissan. Once the sergeant clocked the vehicle, he slowed down, turned around, and started to follow the Nissan. Let's pick it up from there. I'm going to try not to talk too much because the videos pretty much are self-explanatory. The sound from the video will kick on. It's very typical for the sound to delay once you turn the video on. Again, there won't be any sound in this first segment. I just wanted to show you how and where this whole incident started. Once the sergeant clocked the Nissan doing 80 and a 50, he turned around and tried to catch up to that vehicle. The upper right area of this map shows where everything started, which was by Farm Workers Village, an area in Immokalee, Florida. That image shows the first part of the pursuit. That arrow points and leads to I-75 from southbound State Road 29. From there, the chase will continue on I-75 westbound. That westbound will eventually change to northbound and continue north until it all comes to an end about 2 miles north of Immokalee Road. This part of the map shows the entire distance of the pursuit. Speaking of which, let's pick back up on it, where the sound starts.
Up to 87. $99, 100. On 7.
Stay off the pole, you can do 51.
I got a vehicle run 110 southbound.
51.
So Charlie for 10 values to 829 and I-75?
Well, the Florida tag looks like Whiskey 574 Zulu Papa. And it's a Nissan Altima black in color. Currently at 29 and it's like Transro curve.
Part 3 is right?
Alright, we're going to light him up. 110 with me directly behind him.
Yeah, 29 with one more thing. Number 20, you're clear code.
And Tango 410 will be 31 Victor.
This has been to traffic signal with the tail technology confirmed.
State Road 29 approaching 858. Traffic moderate to light. Roads are clear and dry. Current mileage, suspect vehicle 110. Continuing south past 858. Coming up on the interstate, I'll give you an update of which direction we go. If he turns on the interstate, 10-4 to pit. Alright, suspect vehicle headed westbound. Westbound on the interstate. Missed the pit.
Yes, sir. Heading westbound on I-75.
Westbound. Notify District 2, please. Naples Tango 410, westbound I-75, 81 mile marker, suspect vehicle 100 miles per hour. 10-4 approaching the Everglades overpass.
That's it. Back up, 60 out, 60 out. Take the clear.
10-4 continuing, went around the sticks. 10-4 for pit.
I think we got
10-4 approaching I-75 and Collier Boulevard. Suspect vehicle 112 miles per hour, 112 passing the Collier Boulevard exit. For the next units with stop sticks that we come up to, just for your 43, he passed by using the grass, going around patrol cars and stop sticks for 43. Ten-4 vehicles coming up to you then. It's currently between the right and left lanes. negative on any close hit at all.
That's me on the entrance ramp holding up traffic. You can see the long line right there. That's also me on the move, joining in on the chase.
Coming up to you guys.
Okay, he's slowing up, Yep.
And avoided that set of six as well.
Watch him.
Alright, we're in the breakdown lane again. He's gonna miss those for sure.
Get too far ahead. Yeah, he just slowed up just a hair. They're good right here. He's going to catch back up to us. Yeah. We're making away.
10-4, signal 4. Vehicle's got 2 tires out now, 10-4 to pit. Hands in the air, brother. On the ground. On the ground.
I think he's stuck. The super wiped out, and he slowed down enough, I guess, with traffic or whatever, they were able to put him in the super crash. Yeah, oh wow. They were able to get this guy pitted.
Get up.
Oh, he rolled it. That looks bad back there.
He's on, David. Now, get up on your knees.
Looks like he's okay though. I hope so. There's two troopers out at the other car, so.
4 subjects.
They're not rushing around, so it looks like maybe he's out and okay. Yeah, he looks like he's out. Okay. That's good. Yeah. Yep, that's good.
That was good, because that guy in that wreck, he was my traffic homicide partner, and he pretty much walked away unscathed, so he really lucked out. Well, it wasn't really just luck, because there's reasons why he didn't get hurt. I'm going to go into those a little later on. You also heard over the airwaves them mention there were 4 in custody. That's because the Nissan had 4 occupants. There was the driver, the front right passenger, who was a male, and then there were 2 pregnant females in the back seat. This guy drove like that with 2 pregnant women. I think one of them was his girlfriend. What the hell's wrong with people? I don't know, man. But anyway, nobody from that car got hurt. Well, the next thing was, who's going to work this mess? Because I knew it wasn't going to be me, because the policy says if you're involved in an incident, well, you can't work your own incident. So I was in the clear. The next thing was, who was going to work it? Well, my sergeant comes up to me and said, Bob, they want you to work this. And I confidently said, well, I can't work it because I'm a part of this incident, and by policy, I can't work it. And he goes, yeah, that's true. He goes, let me call them and see what they want to do. I said, okay. So he comes back to me and he said, they don't care. You're going to work it. Sure, of course. Have Bob do it. He won't mind. Well, it was time to get to work. So what I did was I started taking photographs, because that's what I wanted to knock out right away. And luckily, the department called out a couple of extra traffic homicide investigators. And I was like, oh, wow, this is great. So I went to them and I said, hey, guys, would you mind taking the measurements for me? These are the measurements of the roadway and physical evidence and final rest of the cars and all of that. And they go, yeah, well, no problem, we'll do it. I go, great. Because look, that scene was 2,700 feet long. And that's a lot of footwork, if you will. They didn't have to do 2,700 feet. They just had to go up to where John's car came to final rest. I had to continue all the way to the very end where the Nissan ended up and photograph that. As a matter of fact, you saw me show up earlier in the footage. So I photographed the whole thing, but I walked the whole area because that Nissan left scrape marks all the way to the very end. And so I photographed everything. I was so hot. Remember, we live in the tropics in South Florida, and I was soaked. I mean, when I say, it looked like I jumped into a pool of hot water, and only it was sweat. It was my own sweat, and I was just drenched. So I got back to those guys, and I see they're done. I go, you guys are done already? And they said, yeah. I'm like, well, that was fast. And they go, okay. So I had them hand me the paper of what they wrote down. I looked at their measurements on the notepad. Then I looked at the roadway. They only gave me about a half a page of measurements. And I'm like, well, where's the rest of them? And they go, well, what do you mean? I said, there's like a half a page of measurements here. As a matter of fact, when it comes to the yaw marks, you had a beginning measurement. Oh, by the way, there was a bunch of yaw marks that are all across each other. They only took one of them, the beginning and the end. And I go, but you only got 2 points for the yaw mark. How are you getting the radius of that curve? Because a yaw mark is a slide mark on the roadway, which tires leave those marks. You've seen them before. Everybody's seen them before. How are you guys getting the radius of the curve in your reports? Well, what do you mean? What do you mean, what do I mean? How are you getting the radius of the curve to reconstruct that yaw mark, the correct radius? This is what he said. It's stuck in my head. He goes, well, I've never done that before. What do you mean you've never done that before? Don't you know how to do that? And he goes, no. I go, okay. This was the area of the roadway the guys couldn't figure out. You can clearly see the tire transfer marks have a radius. I then asked them, if you only have 2 points and you connect them, what do you have? After a little thought, he said, a straight line? And I said, yes. The solution here is real simple, I told him. All you need is a 3rd point, another measurement along the curve, in order to create that radius in your program. The measurements they took were only the number 1 circle you see there and the number 2. They should have taken number 3 as well. That would have given them their radius. Starting at the AOC, which is area of collision, I drew lines over all 4 tire marks. One of them's a scrape mark. They should have measured all 4 of those things. They only measured 1. I then told them, here's what we're going to do. We're going to remeasure everything. And I told one of the guys, I said, okay, you're going to take measurements with the roller measure. I'll take them with the tape measure. And you're going to write all of this down. And we'll get all of our Y and X coordinates that way. we started from scratch. And I saw where they started. I go, did you guys go back further? No. Well, how do you know there's not more back there? Well, I don't know. I said, okay, come on, let's go. I said, let's just start walking. And I just kept walking. And sure enough, there's a whole bunch more back there where the Nissan went off the road and left all kinds of, robust tire marks. And I'm like, okay, I just, just powered through it. I go, come on, let's just knock this out. So we got all the measurements. And by the time we were done, I had almost 2 pages of measurements to their half a page. Well, a couple days after that crash, I got called into the lieutenant's office, and he wanted to know what I had up to that point. And I already came to my conclusion because I finished my reconstruction diagram, and it clearly showed all of the input came from the Nissan. Well, the lieutenant made it quite clear before I even had a chance to say anything. He went, well, I think it's John's fault. I said, well, no, the evidence doesn't show it's his fault. It shows it's the Nissan's fault. He goes, well, I think it's John's fault. I don't think he liked John for some reason. I'm not real sure. I got along really good with the lieutenant. I always did. But I wasn't about to sit there and argue with him. It wasn't the right time. So I thought to myself, well, Lieutenant, let me look a little further into this and do a little bit more work, and I'll get back with you. And he's like, okay. So what I did was I went to the sheriff's office, and I knew there was a car cam available. And I went over there and I said, hey, can I get a copy of that? No problem, as you saw. And I got a copy of the car cam, but I also got the bonus plan. I got a copy of the helicopter cam as well. So I got both of those, looked them over, and there it was. You could see as clear as day from the car and the helicopter, that Nissan ran into John. John was perfectly straight. All of the input came from the Nissan. You saw that. After I looked at it and everything, the next day I go to the lieutenant and I said, hey, LT, I want you to look at this. And he goes, well, what is it? I go, just look at it. So I showed it to him, and I got to the part where the Nissan came off the shoulder and hit John. I said, remember I said this wasn't John's fault. I'm going to prove to you right now it was not. And so he could clearly see the Nissan come off the shoulder and just slam right into John, and then redirect all the way down the road as John started to rotate away. And he looked at it and he goes, okay, well, you're right. It's not John's fault. So John was off the hook. Well, we're getting pretty near the end. I'm going to show a few photos now. And if you noticed, I didn't show hardly any photos in this video because we had things much better than that. And that is the actual footage from the car cam and the helicopter. Well, I'm going to show you a few photos, and that is of John's final rest with his patrol car and the final rest of the Nissan. And that's pretty much it. But there's one other thing, and that is I'm going to show you how lucky John was. And look at this. Speaking of, there's John right there. These are 3 photos of John's patrol car at final rest. Now look at this photo. See that low cable fence right there? It's there to catch and stop out-of-control cars from going from one side of the interstate to the other side of the interstate. In John's case, it did exactly what it was supposed to do. And here's the kicker. That thing was just put up. It was brand spanking new. I don't think it was there but a few days. If you look on the other side of the interstate, the left side there, well, if he went across there and ended up in those lanes, he most likely wouldn't have had such a good outcome. If you consider totaling your car a good outcome, it's definitely better than the alternative. And the thing is, that's a heavily traveled road, especially at that time of day. There's tractor trailers, dump trucks, pickup trucks, cars. He would have gotten hit by multiple vehicles had he made it over to those lanes. That's why he was lucky. This image shows the final rest of the Nissan. I threw this one in so you can see visually how you can track the tire marks. The yellow arrows show where the right side tires crossed over the left side tires. Look at the female at the left rear of the white patrol car in the center of the image. She was pregnant and one of the women in the back seat of the car during the chase. And finally, here's a couple of more shots of the Nissan at final rest. I think with all the patrol cars involved in this incident, it probably was a pretty darn good time to commit a robbery. And finally, we're at the end, believe it or not. If you're wondering whatever happened with the driver of the Nissan, Mr. Palmer, well, here's a list of his charges and what happened in court. Sergeant Sowles, the guy who initiated the chase, also made the charges to Palmer, the driver of the Nissan. He charged Palmer with unlawful speed, fleeing and eluding, habitual traffic offender, leaving the scene of a crash, fleeing and eluding after a crash with property damage, and 2 counts of child abuse without great harm, fleeing and eluding. Those 2 counts were because of the pregnant women in the back seat. As a result of all of this, Palmer was able to work out a plea agreement where he pleaded guilty to multiple criminal charges. He ended up with fleeing and attempting to elude a law enforcement officer at high speeds with wanton and disregard for the safety of others and property. The judge branded Palmer a habitual traffic offender and a documented career criminal due to his extensive prior record. That record included previous arrests in Lee County, Florida. And finally, in May of 2010, Collier County Circuit Judge Fred Hart sentenced 27-year-old Kevin Gerard Palmer, the driver of the Nissan, to 7 years in state prison, followed by 2 years of probation. Believe it or not, that's it. If interested, I do have another YouTube channel. It's called 8 and 35mm Restoration. On that channel, I posted a whole bunch of my old home movies. Some of them I shot in sound, and some were silent. Of the silent ones, I did add some music, voiceovers, and sound effects on some of them. I also have a whole bunch of tutorials on how to digitize and process 8mm movies, still photography slides, photographs, and negatives. If you're interested, I did put a link in the description below.